Welcome to the, okay, it doesn't let me do that. Welcome to what I have to say about the Cosmic Code, which is Book 6 of the Earth Chronicles by Zecharia Sitchin. And he provides an alternative mythology, an alternative history, but we can look beyond that. At even from the information he says, it's best for either a mystical or a logical individual to take a different approach. Marduk as Yahweh seems to be what he's portraying. As sort of a case, Marduk, Enki and Enlil are sort of both demiurges. It becomes very apparent they're not really gods. Marduk, or Ra, is given sort of the place of Satan as the, well, Satan chained for 1,000, and in some of the myths we're talking about how he was entrapped for 1,000 years in sort of a mountain, which Zecharia Sitchin in one of the books says something about how it was the Great Pyramid. Yes, I do agree that, you look at the number symbolism, because every word also forms a number if you're looking in the Hebrew or the ancient Aramaic, but there's something there also to look at that's more along the lines of, okay, he lived 600 years. Oh, he had white hair. That's what it also can say, 365. There are words that could have been said. If you're only going to use the spelling, you're still saying something other than just a number. So let's look at that. And why can't a god reveal something that is literally and outwardly true, but there's inner meaning to look at also? There are linguistic and coded messages in text, but why would a god put something forward that's not true? There's two explanations for why these things occur. Is one, the tradition is perverted to begin with, or at least what we have of it, or two, this way of interpreting things is because people see there's problems, but no, it has to be true, so they have to figure out another way that it's true. Or they're going to change things. It turns out that if you look at the archaeology for the Bible, now the Christian side is much worse when it comes to stuff like this, but you actually found that the number value of one text, and there were 3 angels, and then it turns out there's an older text that actually gives the name of the angels. There's something like that, and there's other examples of things that have been added and subtracted intentionally to twist around the words and play games with the number values and put in other values and stuff like this. So if you look at that, you can uncover a lot of what has to be said. But, 666 is the number of the sun, son of man, and all that other stuff. So not everything to do with 666 is bad. And I'll do an 888 video. I have it on the board here. I have other things to do with numerology. And I think that was clever. The number 70 and the number 11 turned upside is the number 11 turned up, flipped upside down. But, oracles are things that you can twist your own direction. And, is there a resurrection machine? Is all these myths because there was some sort of technology? Could be. It could even be that the ancients had ways of bringing people out of comas. People would have thought they were dead and they're kind of stinky, not washing themselves and go to the bathroom on themselves, but they're all asleep and all. But, you know, you do... so, you know, there's a lot of interesting things that, you know, if you look at things linguistically, if you look at things through various scientific disciplines, you might actually find that there's information either in the human body that is interpreted through some ancient culture or an environment that can be interpreted through the information in there, or that because we know this, we can actually figure it out. Very good example of how the language progressed from the Sumerian into the regular cuneiform and various other languages. That's kind of the Mies, again, jumping to this computer thing, and it's all about Nibiru, and why did... It's very interesting that he points out that Marduk and Abraham Marduk arriving somewhere else, and Abraham leaving and going somewhere else, is said to have happened in the same year, at least in the Hebrew version. That's some very interesting stuff right there. You know, fate and destiny not being the same. Something about the planets, even if it happened for humanity, again, some of this information comes through spiritual beings that were here before us, or heard from other beings that were here before us. So you don't have to think about physical aliens to get into that sort of thing. And the zodiac signs possibly referring to hero deeds, because, I mean, some of the constellations really don't look like these sorts of things. And the idea that the aliens needed, you know, if they had all this technology and stuff, they wouldn't have had to build these platforms to view the stars and make it all precise, and stuff that could have happened by observation over hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of years, passed down here and there, and, you know, figuring out things over time. You know, why do the aliens have to do that sort of stuff? And this nuclear war. He keeps talking about this nuclear war. There are a few places in Siberia and stuff like this where it turns out that comets and stuff came down. But at least when you claim nuclear war amongst ancient aliens and astronauts and stuff, proof. If it happened within 350,000 years, the area would be different in terms of radioactivity versus other areas. And places in Pakistan, somewhere else, not this book, places in Pakistan where they mined uranium and people thought it was evil or something in ancient history, and you know, going back 8,000 years, mining uranium there and stuff like this. It doesn't have to be for aliens. There's other uses of these things. You know, the fiery chariots. There's some interesting things to consider. I would think that those are some sort of headgear for the heat or something like this, rather than... And, you know, why would a god have to time things very precisely and things in terms of these prophecies and stuff? Well, you know, God's plan for humanity are the other spiritual beings, what they want to do with us, may be in terms of how things were put for how things are going to go down for us. What is possible for us? Our destiny and our fate. Well, what's predestined for us, if we decide our fate through, you know, something becomes a habit, becomes an addiction, or becomes a character, and how's that thing break down for us? Yeah, it's a choice. If there's a God out there that predestines how long we're going to live, that doesn't mean that no one can kill us or anything like this. It's that God has set down the rules. or of how long we're going to live, how good and bad we're going to be. If that's predestined, totally our choice, every single decision. Where we're going to walk, a lot of that's our choice. What our provision is, I mean, it's like we can't make effort towards one sort of provision or another, and that's not going to make a difference because it's all predestined. Who built the very interesting point about the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, that the Bible doesn't completely make the most convincing case that David and Solomon were the first people to build there and that they did everything. It sounds like they sort of didn't. It says they did some. So rebuilding projects upon a platform, and there's no evidence of how they did some of this stuff, that, there's a lot of stuff makes sense. But does all the ancient monuments have to be done by the same people? Are there arrangements because of the technology that they developed? Ancient man could have done that. Ancient man was very patient. And I don't, I do think there are beings that's, and, the similarities in between the temples and stuff. One, they put things, the psychological and the spiritual things could have been put forth in terms of their own material culture. There's, and tablets, secret knowledge being taken away. Some of that from various seers and, who's going to return? Does, that was sort of the implication in the monotheism versus the polytheism. Is the monotheism, okay, God is omnipresent and everything else. The polytheism, these people had beings that they could encounter, like physical beings. But whether sex magic or evocation in general or whatever, people do encounter other spirits and beings other than God, devils of various sorts. So if these people earn the favor of various spirits enough to have the presence in their temples, actual presence, not just the psychic egregor buildup, that could have been the case. And the idea that Marduk also wanted, it wasn't quite sort of wanted to be a godhead, sort of like some of the Christian ideas, that there were a bunch of lesser gods, or effectively lesser gods in their own temples that kind of worship things, just like you have the various saint shrines and stuff like this. But it doesn't sound like they came, and they've set up places elsewhere. So that could have been a healthy competition between the demons, I guess. And yeah, what is the navel of the earth, and how do they figure this out? Surveying and stuff. Humanity generally developed so gradually that all of a sudden they had enough information that they could have developed a lot of the technological things that we have today. So I'm not terribly convinced. I'm rambling on, so I'm going to stop here. So, but when you look at books like this, look at what they have to say, why they have to say it. Don't just accept things blindly. And there I am.